getting to know Windows from an insider's point of view, and this installment is Windows 10 settings. And settings, as you're probably aware, has rapidly becoming the replacement for the old control panel. The last version of Windows that had the control panel as the primary vehicle to make changes to your system was Windows 7. And with Windows 8 is when they introduced the first application that they refer to as settings. So the latest version of Windows 10 offers a wide range of settings, which includes personalization, system, and privacy options. So today we're going to be able to explore the many ways that we can use these options. And the new Windows 10 settings app, as it's referred to, comes with a new design and a new interface that allows you to customize and personalize it according to your personal preferences. So while Microsoft has always been offering a decent range of settings and options and personalization capabilities in all of its Windows versions, things now are a bit different in Windows 10. While the control panel is still there, the new settings app comes with a new design and a new interface. The system settings let you adjust the settings of your apps, notifications, display, and power. You can change the display resolution, display orientation, the brightness, color of the built-in display. You can also change the size of your text, apps, and other items. So the first thing that you need to know about these two menus is that settings is now the go-to tool for most common Windows personalization options, while the control panel is generally reserved for the more complex actions and settings. And what I've told people in my club is that use the settings first, and if you kind of get lost or you're stumbling around, you can always go to the control panel and find what you're looking for. But another way of finding what you need is actually just using the search menu and just typing what you want to do, and it will usually give you a option. So here's the Windows setting menu. And as you see, there is a search area right here that you can just type in whatever you want to do, and then Windows will find that for you. And I'm going to put up the old control panel here. As you can see, that the old control panel has things laid out in a very similar fashion as the new one. So you can easily find information here. To me, this is a lot more descriptive than the old way. But I think a lot of people also used a different view. This is the category view, but there also was a view where you could come here and use the large icons, and you have a more descriptive, but even here, in my mind, these are not nearly as descriptive as you find here, but that's my personal opinion. But I think if you find yourself getting accustomed to the new Windows setting, you'll soon find this a lot easier to use than the old control panel. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the various settings, and I'm not going to go through every one of these, but we are going to, out of the 14, we're going to look at 8 of these. We're going to look at systems, We're going to look at device. We're going to look at network and internet, personalization, apps, accounts, privacy, and updated security. And if you have questions on some of these others, we can address those too. But for now, we're just going to concentrate on these. And I'm going to discuss each one in some detail. So the very first one that we want to look at is system. Now, this is our what is referred to as our home screen. And the very first tile that we have is referred to as system. And here you're going to find display, sound, and notifications. So when I click on this, I'm going to be brought to this screen, which is the very first one, which is going to be the display. And this is the one that we can adjust the brightness and color of our screen by using this slider, and it will dim accordingly, as you can see here, which makes it very simple. If your screen is not bright enough, then you can go here and adjust that. You also can turn the night light. It's been discovered that setting a lower hue screen setting is better for you, especially to allow sleep. And you can go here and adjust this, and you can set the strength of how the color, how you want it to be, how you want it to look. As you can see, when I touch this, it gives a kind of indication of what it's going to look like. And you can turn that on by just clicking that button, and it will then, you can see the difference here. Now you can also schedule the night light at different hours. Mine is scheduled for like 7 o'clock. I use the sunset to sunrise setting here, and it automatically in the evening comes on at that particular time based on the sunset and sunrise. Or you can set particular hours. Some of the other settings here, depending on the hardware of your computer, you can do the HD color settings, and these are people that use video games. They can get a very vibrant picture for video games and apps, and they have to support, your monitor has to support HDR, which is a video setting that you'll find in a lot of the high-end televisions these days, but some of the computer monitors also have that. It gives darker blacks, other a more detailed color palette than the regular your standard monitor, but your monitor has to be able to handle that. Also, you can change the scale and layout of your text, apps, and other items. And what makes this nice is that you can set this, here we have it 100% settings, but if you need a larger one, you can go here
Bill,
and
can I
change.
pause a second? Could you enlarge that screen right there?
I am. So now when I enlarge this, I'm going to make it 100.
The window that you have on your screen, we don't need to see your background.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
All right. So here we can set this to different sizes, and what this will do, it will make the actual text larger without distorting the picture. And I just made a 125%. Now what's going to happen is going to allow you find yourself scrolling more, but if you need a larger font, then this is one way of doing it without distorting the overall picture of your objects and other things that you have on your screen. It's just going to basically change the size of the text. And your resolution, Windows always gives you the recommended settings based on your monitor. This monitor that I have, the recommended display resolution is 1920 by 1080. But there are other ones that you can also change if you need to. But remember that you will incur some distortion by using some of these other settings. So be aware of that. And of course, when you're in the process of making these changes, it's always recommended that you copy what you've done so that you can always get back to the original setting. Also, your display orientation is here. You can change it to landscape, which most monitors today are in landscape mode, so that's the default that you should have it set to. I've run across a couple people that some sort of way they have managed to flip their display and did not know how to get it back. Well, somehow this setting right here got changed where it made, when it got flipped, it made everything upside down. So if you ever have that, encounter that situation, this is where you can go and correct it. And for those that have multiple displays, you can also fix that issue. Now, one of the things that a lot of people probably find a bit of annoying is notifications and actions. Notifications and actions are when you go here at the lower right-hand corner of your screen. I don't know, I hope you can see that. There's a little, looks like a caption. And this is where you get notifications of different activities that have occurred on your computer. And the way that, how that occurs is how you have this setting. So if you want to receive notifications from various applications, then this is where you can make the adjustment. So first of all, when you have get notifications from apps and senders on, it's going to be, it's going to show this. And then if you go down to the bottom of this screen, you'll find where you'll receive notifications from various applications that are installed on your computer. So if you get new mail, then it's going to pop up and say you have new mail. That goes for your calendar, Microsoft, any of these that you have turned on. Now, what you can do is that you can turn this on and then go and select the ones that you really want to receive notifications from. If you don't want notifications at all, just switch this off, and then that will turn all the notifications from these various apps. They will turn them off. But you can go in and make adjustments to however you want, what you want to see and what you do not want to see. One of the other settings in system is storage. I mean, you see a bunch more, but these are the ones that I felt are, that I use are important to me. So storage here is going to show you what's various applications are being used, what's taking up space on your hard drive. And there is a new setting that has appeared, and it's called Storage Sense. And what this does, it will automatically free up the space by getting rid of files you don't need. It's sort of Windows version of CClean. And you can turn that on. When you do turn it on, you need to go in and configure it on how you want it to run. And so like in this case, it's going to run every week. I have it set so it's going to deploy, delete temporary files that my apps aren't using. and how often I want that done. If I want files deleted from my download folder. Now you realize that when you download something from the internet, it's always going to end up in your download folder. And so if you want to hold on to those files and you have storage settings turned on, you want to make sure that you have that set to never. But you can adjust it to 1 day, 14 days, or up to 60 days. And again, storage settings can free up space by removing unused cloud-backed content. So if you use OneDrive, then you can also go and make changes to that. So in this case, content will become online only if it's not open for more than 30 days. So anything that's 30 days old is going to become online only. So I won't have, the only way I can have access to it is in the cloud, even though I have a copy of it on my hard drive. And you can adjust that. And then if you want to free up space now, you can do that. It's also a checkbox here to delete any previous version of Windows. That refers to, you've seen files in your file explorer that says old.windows. That would be this, that would then, checking this box would then delete that particular folder. Now, to navigate between windows within settings, you can use the back button just like you do your browser, and that will take you back one screen. Or if you want to go to the main screen or the home screen, you can just click home, and it will then take you to the home screen. So now we're going to talk about devices. This is where we can make settings to our printers and scanners, mice, and we're going to talk about typing and autoplay. Let's see. So if I'm needing to make to add a new printer, I'm going to go here to printers and scanners, and I'll get this screen. And to add my new printer, I just need to click on the plus box, and then it will then go out and scan for all the available printers that are on your network. Once it's been discovered, you just need to click on it, and you then click on Add Device, and that printer will then be added to your system. So it really makes it really easy and simple. And then below, you'll find a printer that I want isn't listed. It'll give you some ones here that that possibly are on they're installed, but they're not. They were not identified. It didn't identify them here. So you can come down here and basically do the same thing. These are already installed, so I can remove this. Or any of these devices that I no longer need. If I want to make adjustments to my mouse, I can click here, and here I can adjust whether I want the primary button to be left or right. I can adjust the cursor speed. I can also adjust the number of wheels to scroll multiple lines at a time, one screen at a time. And then I can also choose how many lines that I want with each scroll. And this setting right here is scroll inactive windows when I hover over them. If you have multiple windows open and one is in the background, you still can see part of it. You can scroll that screen without disturbing whatever you have in front of it. And that's a toggle which you can turn on or off. In typing, Windows has a built-in capability of doing autocorrect through its built-in spell checker. And you can control that. If you find the autocorrect is being an annoyance, you can turn that off. And I believe that for the most part, these are on by default. So if you're having difficulty with Windows auto-correcting words that, or you find it's just an annoyance, because sometimes you type a word that you that is correctly spelled, but Windows wants to change it to something else because of the context of the sentence or whatever. Well, you can turn this off. Also, same for highlighting misspelled words. There's just a variety of settings that you can go to, so you can set and go through these. Now, be aware of the fact that settings applies to a multitude of devices. So, like in this case, they're saying show text on the software keyboard. And what that is, that's the virtual keyboard when you actually start typing a word and you're using a touch screen, then that virtual keyboard comes up. That's what some of these settings apply to. So just be aware of that. Windows uses artificial intelligence to help you with this. So you might review the typing insights and see if some of those recommendations apply to you. Also, again, if you have a touch screen, this would apply to the touch screen keyboard. And then there's another one for hardware. So this is divided up in 3 different types of keyboards. So whether they're on or off, it all depends on which keyboard you're using that this would apply to. So don't be concerned if you have the software keyboard turned on. It will only come effect if you are actually using a software keyboard. The same for the touch keyboard. And another area that a lot of people find annoying is autoplay, and it's on by default. So that means that when you place a device in one of your, like a USB, and your USB port, it automatically starts playing. Then if that's a problem for you, then you can turn that off here. You can also choose which devices that you want for that to occur. On the removable, it says choose a default. So you have import photos and videos to Dropbox, choose what to do with each type of media, take no action, or ask me every time. So if you had pictures, for instance, on a USB, and you stuck that in your USB, and it automatically can import those photos and videos to Dropbox without you having to do anything. Or you can, if it had files on it, it would automatically open up File Explorer. Or you can just have it take no action. And the same for memory cards. You have the same kind of choices. So we've talked about the system. We're going to talk about, we talked about devices. And now we're going to talk about our network and internet. Status, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, virtual private networks, airplane mode, and mobile hotspots. And as I said before, some of these areas settings apply to other devices that if you have a desktop that may not apply to have airplane mode, but if you have a laptop and you're traveling, it would. The same for using a mobile hotspot. So we're going to discuss that as well. So again, I'm going to go back to Home, and I'm going to click on Network and Internet. Now, in Network and Internet, it's going to give you the status of your connections. Like in this case, we're on Wi-Fi, so it's showing my network name, which in this case is an extender. And I happen to have two extenders, so that's the reason why there's two extend on this particular name, because it's indicating that I'm on the second extender. And it shows that it's a private network. If you have a good connection, then you're going to see a straight line from your device to your network, and that means that you're on the network. And then this symbol right here indicates you're on the internet. So it's very possible that you'll see a graphic that shows your PC and so that you're connected to the internet. I'm sorry, to the network, but you may not be connected to the internet, and you will not see that globe. So if you have that problem, then you need to go in and either reboot your router or whatever you need to see if you can get yourself back online. But it'll tell you here you're connected to the internet, and when you are, you'll see this globe. It also tells you your data usage. Like in this case, I've used 102 gigabytes over a period from the last 30 days. Now, if you're wanting to connect, you have a new device and you're wanting to connect to your network, you can click this box here to show all the available networks that are in your that are available to you. And so in this case, you see I have that's another extender that I have that can connect to that. And then this is my regular network. Cox Wi-Fi. If you're a Cox subscriber, then Cox provides you a hotspot in various locations that you can connect to. And to connect to that, you need to have your user ID, which is usually the first.
It'll maximize your window again, please, for the black
Oh, I'm
one.
sorry. Yeah. And what happens here is that if you have a Cox account, then you can connect to those by using your Cox email address and the password that was provided to you by Cox, and you can call them to find out more information about that. But that's just an added bonus if you happen to be a Cox subscriber and live in their service area. Other things too is that you can change adapter options. Also show your network and sharing center, which shows which what you're connected to. And also you can do some troubleshooting. And that's all there within this application. And there's a network troubleshooter that you can use to diagnose your network problems. Now, if you have an Ethernet connection, which I do not have, you can also view that here. And you should see it says not connected, but if I was, it would tell me the information regarding that. Very few people use dial-up, so we won't even talk about that. But VPN, virtual personal network, is one that we can talk about. And if you subscribe to a VPN, you can go in and add it here. Again, by clicking the plus sign, and it's going to give you a form to fill out, who your provider and the connection name, etc. And you'll get instructions with your VPN. There are free versions and ones you pay for. And Windows has one built in. I've not used it, but you can explore that. Just going to cancel that. And then, as I said before, if you're using a laptop or a mobile device or tablet or whatever that has Windows, you can turn on airplane mode here. Now, I found some individuals that have inadvertently turned this on, and when you turn that on, it will kill your Wi-Fi. So that's one of the places that you might want to check if you all of a sudden lose your Wi-Fi connection, that maybe somehow inadvertently airplane mode has been turned on. I'll show you here that if you go to this area here where you have the tiles, you'll see that airplane mode is also available to toggle on and off. For it to be on, it has to be blue. But if it's off, it's going to be gray. So if you're having problems with all of a sudden your Wi-Fi has gone south on you, you might want to just check here and see if airplane mode has been turned on. And again, there are switches here to turn your Wi-Fi on or off, both for Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth. And last and not least on this screen is mobile hotspots. This wouldn't apply if you have a desktop, but if you're out and about and you want to be able to share your internet connection to other devices, then this is how you would go about doing it. You turn this on, and then it would give you a password to connect to, and you can share your internet connection over Wi-Fi, also or Bluetooth. But those are applicable to mobile devices more than anything. So as we move right along, we're going to talk about personalization. And I'm going to, again, just hit the back button. It's going to take me, will take me one screen back. And personalization, I'm going to click here. And I'll then get this screen. And in settings, the very first screen you see is always going to be the very first item on the list. And you can tell that it's been selected by this little blue indicator that's on the left of your screen. So if I'm in one of these others, like Sacred Themes, you'll see that little blue indicator. But it's always going to default to the very first one that you, when you open this, that particular option. So in backgrounds, this has to do with your desktop background. In this case, I have that picture selected, which is I can choose from here, and that will affect what background I have. I'm using the Bing backgrounds, and that's something that you can install, and it then becomes your default, but you can select other ones as well. So the background that I'm using here is a picture, and that's from the Bing collection, but I also can have a solid color if pictures are not your thing. Or then I can have a slideshow, and when I choose slideshow, then it'll rotate between these 5 pictures that are in view here. If I want to get more pictures, like if I want to get family photos, I can go to Browse, and it'll bring up my File Explorer and the picture folder, and then I can go select the pictures that I want to make my own personal background. If I want pictures of my dogs or children or whatever, I would just go here and select whatever pictures I want, and then they would then become my background. Of course, a lot of photos don't actually fit the screen properly, and you can use this setting, choose a fit. Span will take a camera size picture and span it across the entire screen. Expect distortion, of course, because it's going to try to fill up the whole screen. But you have other options here, and you just might want to go here and just play with a couple of these to see which one looks best if you're using a photo that's not capable of filling the screen. Also, notice on the side here, you find these hyperlinks. Now, almost every screen will have some of these hyperlinks that you can go and get additional information. Say, for instance, if you want to have high contrast settings, you can click here, and it's going to take you to the area where you can go in and select that. This is coming from the accessibility tile, which we're not going to talk about. But if you have a need for that, then that's how you would be able to find out more, or at least go to that setting. Now, one of the things that you'll want to do, and you'll see this again, if you have multiple computers, say for instance you have a laptop and you have a desktop, and they're on the same network, and they also are synced with one another. So to control that, you can sync your settings here, and it will give you how to sync your theme, your password, and your other preferences. So that means this theme that you have selected will also appear on your other computers. Colors. You have several selections. I'm personally favorite of the dark theme, which is the reason why my background is black or dark, because I find the contrast better for me to see. But if you are not in favor of that, or you currently would like to do that, this is where you would do it. It's on personalization on the colors. And you can choose your color, and you have the light, which gives a very bright result. And then there's the dark, which is it's my preference. And then you also have custom, which you can choose which screens you actually want to be dark or which ones you want to be light. So if you want the default Windows mode, which in this case I want it dark, but I can also change it to light. So that means that it's only selected that the Windows mode will always be light, but then I might want to go and have my app modes to be dark. So I could switch these around if I like. But if you select the dark mode, that means everything is going to be dark. If you want to change your accent colors, then this is where you do it. If you notice, there is some a brilliant red. There's hot pink. They call it plum light. Let's see. Where's the hot pink? Well, that looks like hot pink to me, but maybe they're calling it something entirely different. But anyway, you can go here and select the accent colors, and that would apply to your taskbar and some of the other color palettes that you might want to change. And of course, you can still do custom colors by clicking on that, and you can mix and match what you want. Show accent colors on the following surfaces: title bars and Windows borders. So this blue, the title bar at the top of your screen, which, say for instance, you're in Word, that will be whatever color you've selected here. And again, also your task bar and action center, which I haven't checked. If I was to check that, then those areas would then become that color as well. I'm going to uncheck it. You notice the color will change back to black. Now it's a blue color. Microsoft themes. These were really popular when Vista came out. You could have all kinds of themes. Well, those have continued to be retained in subsequent versions of Windows. The only difference now today is that in order to get the themes, you have to go to the Microsoft Store. And there's a link here to do that. By clicking on that, it'll take you to the store. And then you will have access to the different themes. And a lot of these are free, and some are paid. Just depends on the subject matter. If they have to pay royalties on it, then there's a charge. But as you notice, there's lots of free ones there, so you can really change your background to whatever that you like. Just remember, though, those are in the Microsoft store. And one of the things that you'll know about the store is that you have to have a Microsoft account in order to get in there. So if you don't know what your Microsoft account is, then you have to look that up. It's usually your email address and a password, however you set it up when you first install your first set up your computer. Now, also, you can do some things with themes. Besides the background, you can also do your color changes and your sound, and also make changes to your cursor. And just by clicking on these will take you to the appropriate area to make your selections. Fonts is another area which will show all the fonts that you have installed on your computer, which are quite a few. Now, if you want to add additional fonts, again, you have to go to the Microsoft Store to do that. So you click here, again, it'll take you to the store, and then you have these selections. Again, some are free, some are you have to pay for. But just by selecting ones, they will then download directly to your computer. So say, for instance, if I wanted to use this Georgia Pro, it'll come up, and I just click on Get, and then it will go ahead and install the font to my computer. And it gives you a description of what's included, and there's some screenshots of what it looks like. You have your system requirements. You have some discussion of what others thought about it, plus some related products. The other selection is your Start. When you click the Start option, this is going to affect this box or this window here. So what we have is that we can show more tiles on Start, and what that will do, it will expand this by another column. That blank space right there is your additional column, so that means that you can move a tile over to here if you need more space. The other thing is show the app list in your Start menu. And what we mean by the app list is this list right here, the one that's in the middle. This is every program or app that you have installed on your computer. If I turn that off, then I no longer have that list. I can go here and click on this, and it'll show all apps. But if you want to have it as part of your Start menu when you first click on it, then this has to be turned on. And now you see you have your all apps. Also, the area that shows if you install anything recently, they will appear at the very top of this list. As you can see, it says I installed Bing Wallpaper. I installed Zoom, which also gives me an opportunity to uninstall it. And it will show in this recently added section. If I don't want to see that, then I can turn that off, and those no longer will appear. The same with most used. Again, there's a switch to turn those on and off. So you can customize this to however you want and how large you want it to be. Occasionally, Microsoft will show some suggestions from the Microsoft Store. None show right now, but you'll see occasionally if something's new in the store, it might appear here. And that's where that's coming from. It's not something that just suddenly appeared and you think you've got a virus or something. It's because you have this particular option turned on. The other thing that has occurred, I've found some people have found that they've had the start full screen, and when you do that, it looks like Windows 8. And if you've ever seen that, there's a couple reasons why that may have happened. One thing, if you go over here to your notifications area, you'll notice there is another box that says tablet mode. Sometimes that gets turned on, and when that's turned on, then you'll find yourself looking like that. So there's one or two places that has occurred. One is this tablet mode has been turned on, so you need to turn that off and you'll go back to your regular screen. Also, in your settings, you have this has been turned on. So that needs to be off, and then if it is, then you're back to your regular start menu. So just keep that in mind. Other things here is jump list, which I like a lot. And what that allows you to do is that when you hover over a I'm gonna have to minimize my screen. Let me show you this. I mean, not minimize, but not make it full screen. Oh, it's not going to show me. Let me see. A jump list. If you have, let's see, can I do this? Oh, here we go. If I was to right click on my Word document, it would show all the documents that I've used the past month or so. This is a list that will dynamic. It will drop as you add new items. It will drop off. But this is what is referred to a jump list. So that means that I don't have to go and open Word up necessarily to get to a document. If I just used it like a couple days ago, I can just go here, right click, and then go to that document I want to use and click on it, and it'll open. So I don't have to go here, go to Word, and then open that up and then find the document, or go to File Explorer and find it. I can just do it directly from here. Well, the reason why I can do that is because I have this turn has this turned on, which will show my recently opened items. So that's something that you might want to make sure that you have it turned on if you use that. And the last one here is the taskbar. When you click on this, you will get all the different items for your taskbar. So one of the things that I recommend is lock your taskbar, because that will prevent it from moving all over the place. And sometimes you might have inadvertently got it at the top or on the side or whatever. If you lock it, then that means it'll remain in place. You can't inadvertently move it because you press the mouse and you're on the taskbar, and all of a sudden it goes to the side or whatever. The same thing if you want to add real estate. A lot of people don't like this, but it will allow you to auto hide your taskbar when you're in desktop mode. So that means that it'll be out of the way. And I use it a lot. And the other ones, as I said, this applies to a tablet, because remember, settings it's universal. It's going to apply to both desktops, laptops, and tablets. So you just have to remember, if you see something that's odd, don't be concerned about it. Even if I had this turned on, it wouldn't matter, because I don't have a tablet, so it's not going to interfere with anything. small taskbar buttons. If you like the smaller ones, you get something like this. You can still have that peek to preview the desktop. And that was when you would take your mouse and go over to the very end, and then it would then show your desktop. That is a switch that you can turn on and off now. So if that's something that you find yourself moving over and all of a sudden the desktop shows up, and you don't like that, you can turn that off, and so that no longer will happen. The next one has to do with the command prompt. If you use, if I right click on my start button, I get this alternate menu. You notice right here it says command prompt, admin, command prompt. If I want to change that with a PowerShell, then I can do that by just turning this on, and then those buttons will then become a PowerShell. If you don't know what PowerShell is, you don't really need to be concerned about using it. But anyway, now if I click on here, you'll see now it's turned to PowerShell. And PowerShell, I think, is just an upgraded, that's not the right word I want to use. It's similar to the command prompt, except that it has more capabilities, if that makes any sense. But if you're familiar and you use PowerShell or the command prompt and you want to toggle between between the two, you can do it right here in the taskbar settings. Show badges on the taskbar buttons. What that actually means is that, let's see if I can get here. Notice that it says number 15. That means I have 15 new emails. So that's the badge. If I turn that off, then I no longer see that. Other applications that have updates, that have new items, will a similar badge will appear, but it's most common for like email. So if you want to know how many emails that's turned up in your inbox, then you turn that on, then you'll be able to see that you have 15 new emails without having to go and check it every time. Other things is like taskbar location. Typically it's always at the bottom, but you can move it to other areas like right, left. This is where you would do that. Combining taskbar buttons, always hide labels. Then there's one that when taskbar is full, all it's going to do is just compress these so that you can get more items on the taskbar, or you can always, if I want to hide labels, then when I hover over them, I wouldn't see what it was. Other things, you can go down and customize. There's this guy right here. That's shows your number of contacts. Can show here on your taskbar. You can turn that off. So that would apply to this icon right here. So if you don't want that, you just turn that off, and then that will go away. I'm going to go back now, and we're going to talk about our about our apps, and we're going to talk about apps and features, default apps, and startup. So again, I can click on my home button, and that's going to take me to my home screen. And I'm going to select apps. And again, as you notice, it's always going to bring up the very first item on the list. And I'll know that because of that little blue rectangle next to it. And here I'm going to talk about how we get our apps and where they come from. So I don't know if you've noticed that if you've tried to install something, you have got a little warning from Windows that says this app is not in the Microsoft Store. And because what they really want you to do, they want you to install your apps from the Microsoft Store. They're not quite as rigid as Apple is, and that you can't install anything that's not from the Apple Store, but Windows is kind of getting that way. But anyway, there is a choice, and here are the choices. If you choose anywhere, that means that you can install without any box popping up warning you that it's not in the Microsoft Store. Then there's another one that says anywhere, but let me know if there's a compatible app in the Microsoft Store. So say, for instance, if you were going to install a word processor of maybe Google Docs or whatever, it would come up and say, first of all, you would say, it would come up if you have, depending on what you had checked. If this was checked, it would take you to it would show you that there was a compatible app for word processing in the store. The next one would say, anywhere, but warn me before installing that this app is not in the store. And then, of course, this right here would say, it won't let you install it because it's not. It only will let you install apps that are in the store. So you want to change that, although it says recommended. So what I suggest, you just either make it anywhere or warn me before installing an app that's not in the store. Or if you want to, you can choose between those two. But I wouldn't use this because this is going to block you from trying to install anything. Then the next part of this is going to be apps and features, and it's going to show you all the applications that you have installed on your computer, as well as the size that their space they're taking up. You can also uninstall these by just clicking on them, and you'll get an uninstall button. Now, something that's new with 2004 is that if you recall, this 3D viewer in previous versions of Windows was installed, but you couldn't uninstall it. But now with 2004, you can, and it's one of several that have that are that way. And I didn't make a list of what they are, but I know this is one. And then I'm trying to think, there's another one too that was like that. But if you want to be able, if you want to install a program, you can just come here and click on it, and that's a click, and then you have the install button that you can then click to install the program. But this will be all the apps that you have installed on your computer. Now, likewise, if you can do the same thing over here in that same list by right-clicking, and of course you're going to get some options, but also you can install it that way as well. But you can just go here and do it. So if I scroll down, I have quite a few apps. But I also can search the list here if I want to just go to like Word. I don't have to do all that scrolling like I just did. I can just type it here and it will then pop up without having to scroll down the list like I showed you, like I did. So the next one is default apps. Now, these are the ones that are common. So you're not going to find a complete list of everything, but you'll find the ones that are commonly used, like your mail. So I use Microsoft Mail, but if I want to use something else, I could just click on it and choose what I actually wanted to use as my mail client. If I want to change it to Outlook, I could. I just click that, and Outlook would then be my default mail app. Some of these do not apply. Like, you have to be careful because Microsoft Edge would not be an email client to use to retrieve mail. But say, for instance, Maps. If I wanted to change it, this is the Windows map, but if I wanted to change it to Google Maps, I could go in the store and see if that app is available to me, and then that would then become my default map app. Same for all these others. If you want to change your web browser from Microsoft Edge to something else, you can click here, and you can find other apps. You can go to the store and look for the other browsers. And the last thing we want to look at is the startup. These are applications or programs that are that will start up when you first start your computer. If you find that your computer is rather slow, just take a look at this. You'll find that the majority of these things will probably be turned on. And so you need to go through and selectively look at them and say, do you really need those to start up when you first turn your computer on? If not, just turn them off. It's not going to keep the program from running. It's just, the next time you use it, it's going to be slower than normal when you get ready to execute it, but that's the only impact. Now, some of these will say no impact, but others, like this one right here, this being wallpaper, it says medium impact. So that means every time I start my computer, then this is going to slow it up. And the reason why I have that turned left on, because when I start the computer, the computer will go out to Bing and pull in the latest wallpaper, because it changes on a daily or weekly basis. I'm not sure when, but occasionally I will get a brand new wallpaper, and I like that, so I leave that on. But it's a medium impact, so it slows my computer down when I get ready to start it. But the rest of them I have turned off for the most part, except for this security for notification icon, which shows here in my sys tray, and it gives me what actions needs to be taken as far as my Windows Defender, which now Windows Defender now is Windows Security, not Windows Defender. My mistake. So take a look at those and see if you have something that's running. Now, if it says a large impact, then you probably need to assess whether or not you really want that To start up, if it's something you use all the time, then maybe yes, but in my opinion, I would not, even if it was, I would make a judgment on that. So we have two more. We're going to talk about accounts, and then we'll talk about privacy, and then we'll have some time for some Q&A. So our next one we're going to discuss is accounts. So we're going to talk about your info, email and accounts, different sign-in options, and we'll revisit sync your settings. So again, I'm going to click on my home button, and I will then go to accounts. And so right off the bat, it's going to show several things. It's going to show your name, and if you have a ugly picture like I have, you can add that. It shows that I'm the administrator, and also if I want to go to billing info, family settings, subscriptions, etc., I can go and click on manage my account. And when I do that, it will bring up I thought it was, let's see. It's probably behind this screen, so I'm not going to be able to see it. But anyway, it'll bring up that information. And this is information concerning if you have a subscription to Microsoft 365, you'll find it there. If you have a subscription to some of the other Microsoft products, you'll find information regarding those there. And then if you want to sign in with your local account, you can click here, and this will then allow you to use your local account rather than your Microsoft account. I always leave mine on for my Microsoft account. I never use my local account. I know there is some discussion about the which one of those to use and whether it's better to use your local account rather than your Microsoft account. I've never figured out why I should be using my local account rather than my Microsoft account, but maybe somebody can bring that up in our discussion. But if you want to put a picture, you can do it here. You can use the camera that's built into your monitor if you have one, or you can browse for one that you have, and that will add a picture here if you want to, rather than have that little graphic that they put in place of the picture. This is how you would change that. Email and accounts, it'll show you all the emails that you have and how you can add an account, again by clicking the plus, and it'll bring up a dialog box where you can go in and you have choices. Some of them are built in, like if you want to add a Google account, you just need to click that and put in your Google credentials. The same for Yahoo. And if you have an Apple product and you have a iCloud email, you can do that. These are just sort of built in. You don't have to do anything special to add those to your list. But it will list all the email accounts that you have, and you can click on them and manage those by changing the password or whatever you need to do, or you can delete it. sign-in options, you can you have these choices. Now, this is all dependent on hardware. Some of the new computers have face recognition. You can go and set that up this way. They're fingerprint readers. But the one that that most everyone can use is the PIN number. And what happens here is that when you click on that, it's going to give you, see, it says my PIN is already set up. But what it'll do is that you have to sign in with your computer password, user ID and password, and then it'll associate a PIN number to that. And it's it can it doesn't have to be it can be more than 4 digits. It can be a combination of numbers and letters. So if you want to set up a unique PIN, you can do that, and then you no longer will have to put in your remember your password, which somehow you should have that put away someplace where you can get to it easily. But if you want to change it to a PIN, you can do that, and it can be more than 4 digits. It can be a combination of letters and numbers. So which I think a lot of people wasn't aware of that, but I learned that just recently. The other things, these things may not apply, but you can use a picture password. There's all kinds of ways that you can sign into Windows that makes it easy for you to do. If your computer goes to sleep, and you know when you press the space bar to wake it up, you have to put in the PIN number or type in your password. Well, you can change that behavior by right here by saying never. And so that means that you no longer have to, when you press the space bar, it'll go directly on without you having to put in any kind of credentials to get into your box. So you have never, and then you have when PC wakes up from sleep. The dynamic lock allows you to be able to lock your device when you walk away, and that's usually tied to a phone or some other device. So if you have that, I don't know why anyone would need that really, but you can do it if you're in a household where you have multiple people using your computer. Then when you walk away and that device, like a phone, is out of range, then they'll lock your PC. You also can restart apps. If you sign out and restart again, then you'll be able to pick up where you left off. That's an on and off button. So this will automatically save my restartable apps when I sign out and restart them after I sign in. So you can turn that on or off. When Windows first came out, if you remember on the lock screen, it would show your email address and some other information. You can turn that on or off here. And lastly, you can use your sign-in to automatically finish setting up your device after an update or restart. So I recommend you turn that on. And then last is sync your settings. So I have these all turned on because I have multiple PCs. I have a laptop and I have another desktop. And I like to have the same theme. I use the same passwords, language preferences, and other Windows settings on that machine. So it doesn't matter which machine I use, it's all going to be the same. And so that to make that happen, you'll want to go here and in your accounts and sync your settings on. So one of the big things is privacy, and we're going to make a quick visit to that. And so the things that we really kind of want to be concerned about is how private we can make our PC and not give the world a lot of information about ourselves. So one of the deals that you can do under general and privacy is change some of the behavior. So let apps use an advertising ID to make ads more interesting to you based on your app activity. You can either turn that on or off, and what that's going to do is rather than tailor your the ads that you get to some of your preferences, it's just going to throw you out general ones. So I have that turned on. That's a personal preference, but you can turn those off. Again, it's let websites provide locally relevant content by accessing my language list. Let Windows track apps launched to improve start and search results, and show me suggested contents in the setting apps. So these are my personal preferences, but you might have something different that you want to, that you don't like this, those can be turned off. Likewise, under, if you want to use the online speech recognition, this is a cloud-based tool that in order for Microsoft to better recognize the different voice patterns, they record what you say in order to get a better idea. So if you use the voice recognition feature in Windows, you will have to have that turned on. But if you just, if you don't use it, then you can turn it off, but you'll still be able to use any kind of voice commands with Cortana if you so desire. But to use the speech recognition feature, you have to have this turned on. Activity history. This little icon right here where it says task view, how this is set, this feature is dependent upon it. In other words, when I click this, it will show me all the activities that I've done today. Notice that I have my PowerPoint. I went to the Microsoft Store. I visit themes. I had fonts and so forth. I created a minutes for a meeting a couple days ago. All those are here. So that means that anything that I need to get back to or would like to get back to, I can click on those and bring that document up. Now, here's something that's really interesting. If you notice on these two items right here, you see this number, 4313 CTO. That happens to be my laptop that I that I created these two documents with. So I'm not on my laptop. I'm on another device that I have in my kitchen, which is an all-in-one PC that I'm using right now. And but none of those documents there were created there. So that means that it doesn't matter which device I'm on, I can still access those documents just by through activity history. So you want to keep that in mind, that how this behaves, how it works, is all how you have this configured. So if you don't want to maintain activity history, you want to uncheck these, as well as turning this off as well, because it's going to show activities from those accounts. And this is my Microsoft account, which I use on all my devices. So I have these all turned on because I want that benefit that I can, doesn't matter which PC I'm on, I want to be able to get to the information without having to run from one PC to another. But likewise, you can also clear the history by clicking here, and it'll allow you to, I'm not going to be able to see that because it's behind the screen, but you can manage your account activity data by clicking on, here it is. So it's going to ask me to sign in to do that. And I put my, in this case, I use a PIN number. I put that in there, and then I can go in and make changes to my, or clear my history. And it's selective. You can clear what you want and what you don't want. And then the other ones are pretty much self-explanatory. These in app permissions, you need to go and look at each one of these to see what you want to allow and disallow. Do you want the, for instance, location history? If you want to allow your applications to know where you're located, then this is where you would make the changes. The same for your camera, microphone, etc. So all of these need to be reviewed to see if they meet your requirements, whether you want to allow that location to be there, or whether you want an app to have that information or not. Allow access to location on this device, and it says it's on. Now the reason why I have that on, because if I want to, on my web browser, if I want to be able to find where the closest drugstore is, then I kind of need to have location history on. So you just have to make you know, what assessments that you want, but allow apps to access your location, and just go through each one of these and just review them. And then down below that, it's going to show you which apps have access to your precise location. So if you look at this, the 3D viewer does not need to have my location history, so I can turn that off. My camera, I think I'll leave that on, but a lot of these can be turned off. On maps, you would want location to be on. Messaging, you don't necessarily need. News, you might. Network speed, etc. So there's a lot of things you can go in and review on each one of these. So we're going to take a look at update and security. And we're going to look at Windows Update. We're going to talk about delivery optimization, Windows security, backup, troubleshoot, and recovery. So we're all really familiar with Windows Update because it's been around since we went to the latest versions of Windows. But in the new version of Windows 2004, you're going to find that you have some choices of how you can adjust Windows, how it can do updates. And I think this has been talked about before, but a lot of people, for some reason, it doesn't always work for them very well. But I think it's more clear now. In other words, now you're going to see adjust active hours to reduce disruptions. We notice you regularly use your device between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Would you like Windows to automatically update your active hours to match your activity? We won't restart for updates during that time. So if I agree to that, I can just say turn on. And then during this period from 5 to 8, there won't be any disruptions. But then you can further go down and define these. You can policy updates for 7 days. You can change your active hours, which is saying from 8 a.m. to 5. View update history, and also have some additional controls over that. But you'll need to go in and just take a look at those and make sure they meet your needs. Because typically, since I'm home, my active hours are between 8 and 5. But for some reason, Windows is saying that they see that I use it between 5 and 8. And this is true because this PC is in a different, it's in my kitchen, and that's about the time I'm really sitting here having dinner. And it's sitting on the bar, so I'm usually sitting here browsing the web or something. So that's why it's picked up those hours. But this is new, so you'll see that, and you just might want to see what it says in your case. Delivery optimization, there's some confusion about how this works, at least in my mind, there has been. It says delivery optimization provides you with Windows and Store app updates and other Microsoft products quickly and reliably. And then it goes in and says allow downloads from other PCs. If you have an unreliable internet connection or are updating multiple devices, allowing downloads from other PCs can help speed up the process. So if you have other PCs in your home, then it's going to take bits and pieces from those PCs if they have downloaded the same data to kind of speed up the others. So you have choices. You can say, first you can turn that on, and then you can say, allow PCs on my local network to interchange data between themselves while they're doing an update. The other choice is PCs on my local network plus PCs on the internet. So you have those choices, and the whole idea behind that is that it's going to speed up the process by utilizing other devices to help with the downloads. Windows security is what used to be called Windows Defender. So if you use Windows Defender, which is now Windows Security, then this is where all the settings are. And I use the built-in antivirus, malware, whatever you want to call it, built into Windows. And so this is all the stats that has come out from that my virus and threat protection is no actions required. All the green checks say no action. If I get a yellow one or red, that means I need to take some kind of preventive measures to change that that badge. And if you click on each one of those, they will tell you exactly what the situation is. Like in this, current threats, no current threats. It gives you kind of a detailed option. You can also do a quick scan if you need to. But in this case, there's no action, but you just click on those and they will bring up the necessary information. So remember that these are not static. When you go there, that you need to click on them to get further information. And as you can see, if I scroll my mouse down, you see those little boxes being highlighted, which is an indicator that there is something behind that. Likewise, on your right-hand side of your screen, you'll find some hyperlinks. So you can take advantage of those and they'll take you to the web and give you additional information. And you can also get help. So Windows settings, in my opinion, really offers a lot of information, a lot of ways that you can protect your privacy. You can customize your machine to your liking, do a lot of things that is that can be very easily done, which is a little bit different from having the old control panel, which you had information, but when you clicked on them, I mean, you didn't get a whole lot of, this is what you would get. I mean, for me, that means that's not helpful. But it's all what you've gotten used to. And I've used every version of Windows since 3.1. And I don't think I've missed an edition of Windows, including the millennial one that came out for that very short period of time. I even had that installed and used it until Windows 95 came out. So it's just what you get used to. And I think if you start using Windows settings, you'll definitely become accustomed to using it and find out how handy it really can be. Pardon me. So the other ones, of course, is that Windows has a built-in backup if you choose to use it. And it's very simple to use. If you have an external drive, you just plug it in, click on more options, and actually that's all that needs to be done. Now the issue here, of course, is file history. It's a different way of a backup, which it's not confusing. It's just it's what's referred to as version history. So you'll find multiple versions of any document that you might have. Every time you did an edit, it made another backup. So that's kind of one of the things you have to look out for. Windows 7 backup is still available, so you can. It works in Windows 10. If you created a backup using Windows 7 backup and restore tool, it still works. So that's not a big issue. Troubleshoot. You can always go and use the Windows troubleshooters. And this is kind of how you control that. it'll show your history and any additional troubleshooters that you might have. Recovery is, you can use this to reset your PC. Now, you have to be kind of careful because when you do this, it's almost like installing, well, it is like installing a brand new copy because you can keep your personal files or remove them, but it reinstalls a fresh copy of Windows. You can go back to a previous version of Windows within a certain amount of time. And since this is a new install, because this has 2004, it's allowed me to go back to the previous version, but there's a time limit on when you can do this. And then you can do the advanced startup if you're needing to restore Windows from a system image. That's here. So let's see. So that's really about everything that we I was going to talk about, and that still gives us some time to answer some questions. So we can start that. Judy? Hello?
Yeah, we're still here, Bill. So Judy's gonna, yeah, we're still here.
Okay.
Judy's gonna unmute herself and then share some questions that she has. And after those questions are done, then we'll allow the participants to unmute and ask questions too.
That'll work.
Bill, can you unshare?
I
Unless
can
you're going to demo
that.
answers. Oh, darn. Okay, Kathleen would like to know. She said she's using CAD or another software that she needs the proper perspective where a square looks exactly like a square. What resolution is best?
That's a good question. Let's go back over here and look at, I have to share my screen again. Let's go back and look at display. And I think it's what we were talking about earlier, that if you are using you probably have changed this from the recommended to something else, to some other setting. And what that's going to do is going to distort the square. So what I would recommend you do is go back to the recommended settings and then use this advanced scaling settings, this one right here, where you can make your objects, your text bigger, and it won't distort your object. So in other words, the square will remain a square, but the text around it will be larger, if I'm understanding the question.
How's that different than under the ease of access?
Under ease of access, and here is another where you can make the text is also bigger. And then also you can make everything larger, which is another, and these will not distort your objects.
Oh, I can read that. Great. Thank you. Okay, James would like to know, what is a network extender?
What, a network extender? A network,
yes.
extender is actually a booster, which in my case, I have these Linksys boxes that because of the way my house is laid out, my router is actually in a bedroom that's not really in the center of the house, which is an ideal location for a router or to broadcast equally through the entire house. So in order to extend that signal, I have this booster box that's here in the kitchen, which is just plugged in an outlet. And so that extends my Wi-Fi signal so that I can run this computer wirelessly.
And that was a Linksys box, correct?
It's a Linksys, but there are other ones. There are Netgear. Mine's older technology. Today they have, if you look at the some of these MESH routers, they have these little satellites, which are actually essentially extenders, but you have that, in this case, Google makes one, I think Netgear makes one they call the Omni. They're fairly pricey, but they'll have one main unit, and then they'll have these little satellite boxes that you can place throughout your house to extend your Wi-Fi signal. But in my case, I'm using older technology. Mine is just a standard. It's just another wireless device that I paired up with my router.
Mm-hmm.
So I plugged it into the wall outlet in the room where the router was, and pressed the I can't remember what they call the little button on top, which will actually go out and try to link the device with with your Wi-Fi. It has a name. I apologize for not knowing what that is at the moment. But anyway, so it links it up, and I just unplug it, and then I can take it and plug it in another room, and I will then extend the Wi-Fi signal. That's a long answer for a simple question.
Thomas, our friend Thomas wants to know, how do you delete fonts? You can add them, but how do you get rid of some?
How to delete fonts?
Mm-hmm. And he also wants to know, while you're going there, why you have 3 pictures in your account.
Oh, you know, I don't know what it is. That was kind of a surprise for me as well.
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but the font question, I think I can address that. I'll have to look why I have those three pictures, but
Have you? Oh, there you go. Maybe you froze.
let's see. I don't think I still found it. So I'm gonna put here because I can't remember where fonts are. So I'm gonna just type fonts here. So I'll go to font settings. And I believe all you need to do is just click on it and click on install.
Cool. That's easy. Marilyn would like to know when in the world you would use a 3D viewer.
That's why you delete it.
Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to be smart. I like to think about it. I have no idea. The 3D viewer comes about. There is a piece of software that is, if you go over to Windows accessories, and there was a 3D paint.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's in the regular place. Whoops. And let me do this.
So if you were using 3D Paint, you could use 3D Viewer to look
You
at
can
whatever
use
you
3D
had
Viewer
created.
with it, but I can't remember where 3D Paint is. Okay, so
I
let's
thought
see.
they got rid of it.
Maybe they did.
Correct.
Nope, Paint
There it
3D
is.
is what it's called. Paint 3D, and I've never done this, but this is where you would probably use it. And then the other one that used to be there was a 3D printer, and I think it's still there. Print 3D. I got everything backwards, but that's where those viewers, that viewer would come into.
Cool.
So if you use these 3D things, then you would probably want to keep the 3D viewer, but for intents and purposes, I mean, I have no need for it. I mean, I've never decided to uninstall it, but if you're, it doesn't take up that much disk space, I don't think. So we'll go to Programs and Features and look at and see. So it's only 16K, so it's not a big program. So, but like
she's also having problems with her start button when she clicks on it because she wants to shut down her computer. Nothing happens. She has to use Control-Alt-Delete to shut down. Do you have a clue what her problem is?
No, let's
send her the answer later.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Because I mean, somebody else was having that same problem, and
I know we just talked about this.
And sometimes when that doesn't work, that means you have an update. But that's kind of a stretch. I have to research that.
Okay, we'll get back to you, Marilyn. Ron says, why in the world would you want to send your activity history to Microsoft? That was my why in the world.
Which history?
The one you showed us where everything that you've been doing, right down there.
Oh, because this won't work actually.
Because there were two check boxes, and one of them you could uncheck not to send stuff to Microsoft.
Yeah. So that was under privacy, and we were talking about activity history. Because if you read this, at least the way I read it, is that I can store my activity history on this device. So that would take care of my local stuff. But if I want to jump back to what I'm doing, then I have to set, actually, I think this means I'm sending it to the cloud, which actually is Microsoft. But so I can go back into what I was doing even when I switched devices. So say, for instance, that's the reason why, I remember I showed you this. That's the reason why I have this right here. This right here is my laptop. And so whatever I did on my laptop is going to show here on my, let's say my kitchen PC, which is what I'm on. So that means if I want to get to this, I don't have to go back to the laptop. It's right here. So the only way that's going to work, it has to be sent to the cloud, which stores it and then makes it available to my other PCs.
Okay,
So
my personal thought is anything that Microsoft wants me to send them about what I'm doing, I turn off.
Yeah, but I don't.
That's just me.
I think those words are misleading, and that's not good on their part. But because see, it says jump back into what you were doing even when you switch devices. by sending Microsoft your activity history, including about websites you browse. And I'm thinking this right here means it's going to their to cloud.
Okay. Edie says when she moves an open window to the edge of the monitor, it automatically becomes full screen. Can she change that setting? And if so, where does she do it?
Okay, well, it's not has to do with the setting, it's how she's dragging it. When you drag it, you have to be, let me move this right here. Okay, so this screen right here, you see what I'm doing? If I want it to go to the side, become a bump, I have to make sure that it becomes like that. Rather than if you move it in a certain way, it will become full screen. I'm trying to think how. I probably won't be able to do it because I'm so used to doing it. I almost do it out of habit. But there is a situation where, well, okay, there it is. If you're not careful, if you move it up to the top like this, it's going to become full screen. So when you're dragging it, you got to make sure that you stay close to the edge, lower than up here, because you get to the top, it's going to come. It'll become full screen. So the box that you're trying to check, though, I don't think it has to do with it. I think it's how you're dragging it. So make sure that you don't scoot it up to the top by accident, because then it will. You see what I'm doing? It'll become full screen. Really, what you want to do is that when you drag it, you want to keep it fairly level and then let go. If that's not, try it. If that's not the problem, then we have another issue.
Does data usage include both the upload and download data?
I would say yes. Let me go back to that.
And a quick question, have you had any problems with version 2004?
Not yet. This is what we're using at the as we speak.
Thank you. Good.
But now back to her data usage. I would say that would be true. We can click here, and I think it's going to tell us. I didn't show that. Well, maybe it's not going to tell us. But I would say that would be both ways. But you only need to be concerned about that if you're on a a plan that limits the amount of data that you use. But you can go here and enter a limit so that when you reach that certain point, it'll alert you that you're about to go over.
Okay, is repair for an app only in Control Panel? Is it a program Windows 7 feature? It's not in Settings, Apps, and she'd like to know if it's in the 2004 update. So it looks like repair is gone. She'd like to know if it's coming back.
Repair?
Uh-huh.
Is that the one that's found in the all apps? And then when you click on an individual program?
The only time I've actually seen that is in Microsoft Word. But I know what you're talking about. Let's go here and see if we can get to it. On the, okay, there's two different, one of the ones that, that you see here applies to apps. Desktop programs like Microsoft Office, when you try to go in and uninstall it, it'll have the option to do repair, but I don't think that applies to all applications. Uninstalling apps, let's see. See, repair, okay, repair apps. You can repair some apps and programs if they're not running correctly. No, you won't see repair, change, or modify options for all apps or programs. So it's only going to be those that actually have that, that gives you that option to repair it. But if it has that option, you can still do it.
Judy, you have some more?
Yep, I'm looking through them here. And I have a question that I don't know whether it's for Bill or John. Is the full-blown Ubuntu now available with GUI for all applications using the screen, such as file browser, etc., available even if for insiders? If so, how do I get it? If not, when will it be available? I think that's the fact that Linux is becoming, or Windows is having Linux as a friend these days.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know. You have to turn that on, and it's one of those additional features. Let's see, Linux. Let's do this. Additional. Apps and features match optional features. Okay, apps and features. So here, optional features. I'm gonna spell it. John, I can't spell Linux. What am I doing?
Linux.
Linux. Oh wait, I missed that. Add a feature. I guess I don't know. I was thinking that's how you did it.
Okay, well, we'll research that and we'll put it in the notes that I send out along with everything else.
That's not really a settings. That's a whole different part.
It's a feature, yeah. And I was thinking it would be over here.
It also deals a lot with the PowerShell too.
You have a couple of email questions. Marilyn says, Outlook will not open to access my Gmail. How, where do I troubleshoot this?
Outlook one, well, I have to research that because I don't use Outlook, but I would say is you have to add the account.
But we will look that up and we will include the answer.
Yeah, it's not, Outlook, I'm pretty sure you have to add that Gmail account to it. If you haven't done that, that's why it won't work. But if you have, then there's some other problem. Which they call that, what, PST? I'll check it out.
Ron would like to know, how do you show all the activity for the day on your screen?
Activity of the day. All right, so you're going to go to Task View again, and then it's by date. See, it says earlier today, and show all 10 activities. So, and there's a timestamp for each one of them. Does that answer his question?
I would hope so. And Ron Brown would like to ask a verbal question.
He wants to ask a verbal one.
Bill.
Yes.
So the Leo Laporte, a well-known sort of guru on the radio, always talks about your accounts. And as you know, most people, when they most people set up their Windows 10 PC, have an administrator account. One of the things he always recommends is to set up another account which is not administrator and use that as your daily account. The reason being is you can't install programs from that account. So it really gets, it's a security feature in that you can't accidentally, you know, click the button, say install, and then install something that you shouldn't be installing, right? I wonder if you do that, and if that's something that you would recommend. Then if you did want to install a program, then you just sign out and you just re-sign in as an administrator, and you could do that. And he always is talking about that. Is that something you would recommend?
Well, good question. I've never really quite understood why they want, some people want you to use a local account. I've always used the my Microsoft account, but then I'm not one to actually install a bunch of programs. So I don't know, Ron, I really don't know what the answer would be. Personally, I'm going to continue using my Microsoft account because
but it isn't. I don't know that it's whether it's a local account or a Microsoft account. The issue is when your account is the administrator account, and you saw that on your
right,
on
but,
your
your administrator account is your Microsoft account.
Not necessarily.
No.
You can have a local account being an administrator or a non-administrator.
Right.
You have that choice.
Yes. It's been my recommendation that people use a non-administrator local account because anything that gets into your account can't get outside of your user and into the rest of the computer because it requires an administrative password.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I didn't know you could. I didn't think the local account could be an administrator account, but okay, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll
Good
learn
question,
something
though.
new every day, and I'm just have one account because I'm extremely careful on what I ever download.
Well, I'm about the same way. I mean, I just don't download stuff just to download. What I'd like to find out is that Microsoft has what's called a sandbox now, that you can download stuff without having to, and I don't know if it's something that, I don't know how to get, I don't know how to access it. Maybe they haven't extended, but they're talking about doing that.
Judy, I have allowed people to unmute themselves, so everybody needs to know, be careful that you don't accidentally unmute yourself if you don't want us to hear what's going on in your house.
Right. We prefer quiet.
Well, it is there, but I don't know how to get, I don't know how, I have not played with that.
I think in order to access Linux and to access the sandbox, if you go to add remove programs, there's a little button at the top that says Windows features. If you open that and scroll down, you'll find all the accessories that you want in that. That's under the old control panel. You know, if you use add remove programs in there, you'll get that feature.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill. This is Greg. The Microsoft account and the local account, you need to have a Microsoft account to put stuff in the cloud to do what you're doing, sharing between.
Yeah, see, that's the reason why, because I rely heavily on the cloud. I mean, OneDrive is my my friend.
That's part of
Bill?
it.
Yes,
David Williams, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. You can have as many different users as you want. And you have one as the administrator, and then you set up other users and only give them user privileges, which means they don't have the administrative privileges. And what happens is they want to install a program or something, they say you need administrative privilege, and you click in, it wants your PIN. But this is so that people that have families, that have kids, wives that share the computer, each one can have their own separate account on the computer.
I think I knew that, but
I think
John
that's what
was.
he's talking about.
Is that what John's talking about?
Not John, but Vaughn. If you sign up, if you have an administrator account, but then you go back in and sign in and use your user account as your regular thing, then you can still do what you want to do, but you're not going to, they can't install a program while you're in that, signed in under that user.
Okay.
So that's what they're saying, is that someone can't install a program, or you can't download something and install if you're not an administrator. If you're running as a user, it's going to pop up and says someone wants to install a program, you need an administrative account.
That's exactly right. I think that's exactly what the idea is here. You can still use the cloud services, but you have to be an administrator to install software. And so the concern is you keep clicking the button and you say, oops, I installed that, and even though it says I shouldn't have installed it, and it's bad stuff. But you can't do that if you're not an administrator.
Okay.
That dates back 1,000 years. I can remember, we've been around for 32 years. That would be my group. And I can remember the techies were talking about that way back in the day. So this is nothing new. It's been around forever.
I think the game changer was Windows, was when Microsoft created those Microsoft accounts, because I remember when I was working with our IT group, we had a user account and we had an administrator's account, and all the peons had user accounts. But then when Windows 8 came about, that changed all that. I mean, they started creating these Microsoft accounts that made you administrators. And they seemed to, there was no, there was no user account available per se. They gave you the impression that you had a local account, you couldn't do anything. So I don't know. John, you're muted.
Gregory, I like you sitting in your
John,
easy
you're muted.
chair at the beach.
That's just wishful thinking.
I know.
Spacebar wouldn't work. Basically, I taught it was, the difference was you couldn't add or remove programs. You could not add or create users. You could not make global changes to the computer. You could do everything to your account that you wanted to, except those few things.
Okay.
Have any other questions? If not,
Well,
Mr. Kennedy
I'd
can.
like to just say something first. Thank you so much for having the confidence in me to allow for me to share my limited knowledge on settings. I hope you got something out of it, and I look forward to our next session, which will be in July, and I think we'll be talking about File Manager, or File Explorer rather. So looking forward to doing that, and we'll see you then. Okay, John, Judy.
Murray has raised his hand, so he has a question.
Well, it's actually a comment. I just wanted to say how much I appreciated this session, and I think it's the best run one I've ever seen. And I'm going to be emailing Jim to find out more about how to set that chat setting that I think was really useful. It really helped to keep the clutter down. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. You guys have to realize the three of us practice this stuff. We just don't do it on the fly.
Never used it. Never
Hey,
used this.
have you got a time to play, guys? Let's have a meeting and go through everything and all the settings. And, you know, good old paranoid Judy here was, you know, about the participants being able to chat and everything. And so this isn't just something that comes together instantly. We practice every single time, and we'll be practicing before File Explorer in case we've forgotten anything between now and next month.
Correct.
And thank you, Bill. I really do appreciate it. I have my notes here of what I need to do. I thought I had gone through settings with a fine-tooth comb, and I have several things that I need to do this afternoon that I missed and I think is really important for me to do. So I thank you for that. That's way cool.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And just to let those that
I
are,
always learn something in the process of doing this. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the name of the game. You guys learn, we learn, we're always learning something new. We learn something about Zoom almost every day and then share it. Anyway, thank you for everybody attending. We will hang around for a while if you guys want to hang around and talk like we did last time.
And
but for all intents and purposes,
I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah.
We're finished.
Thank you.